Well, I think it's time to start. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, depending on where you are. How are you guys doing today? First day of the year. Yeah, another year has gone by, and we meet ourselves in the door of a new year. Today is going to be the first stream of the year, and fortunately, one of a really promising year coming for us in the future. Hope you guys are doing all right. Me, myself, I would say I'm a bit tired because of all the celebrations and stuff. But I have to say I'm really excited to keep on doing what we do best, which is enjoying our hobby. So, what I have prepared for you guys today is a little tier list that I made today, actually. A tier list composed of the main games I played and completed through the entirety of 2022. Right now, I specifically don't have any personal, or the tier is not going to be having any sort of order in specific. I just rearrange every single thing depending, from which point in time did I play these games in particular. So, you know the drill. It's a tier list. There's nothing more to say about it. Let me guys just drop the music here for a moment. We can leave it at the background as we speak. So to have a chill moment together. Showing you guys the tier list just right now. Okay, this is going to be on Paint because I don't have many things. So the game that I completed on last year was basically Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition, Bayonetta, Carto, Didlit and Wondrous Labyrinth, Resident Evil 0, and 5, Thief, Outer Wilds, The Witness, Spyro, just the first and second game, and this was the remaster. Zelda Ocarina of Time did this on the Arcan ship or something emulator that allows you to play the game on PC. Was really good emulator actually, and I personally had a lot of fun playing Ocarina of Time this year. Blue Fire, of course. Hades, Inscription, Live Alive, Bloodborne, Dagon, which was the Halloween special, and Bayonetta. Okay, Bayonetta 3, because this one over here is Bayonetta 1. Okay, guys, you cannot see it, but there she is, Bayonetta 3. So, with no specific order in mind, going from left to right, up and down, I have to say Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is probably an S tier for me. It's not... I mean, it's... What can I say about this game that maybe many reviewers have said a long time ago? Hello, Redis! Let's heckin' go, making a tier list of the games I played on 2022. How did it go? How did the last... You have to share with me the details of what happened. Welcome. Happy New Year to you. So, about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, what is there to say about this game? It's a masterpiece. If you guys have not played Bloodlines 1, it's something I would really recommend. It's one of my, if not the best game in my opinion. Not the best game, but one of my favorite games of all times. It's a game that I keep replaying every single year at least once. And it's a wonderful game. It has a lot of replayability. The gameplay is fine as hell. And I have to say that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is a gem of a game, especially with the unofficial patch. So, well, I pretty much got a not ready for it response, liked me back and everything, but due to circumstances, it can be at least It can be at least for now. Well, it's not a no. So from then on, you could try and, you know. Wait a second. Now that I think about it, can I ink this? It turns out awful, but it's, so I can read your messages though. Yeah, I frankly understand what you mean. It's not a no though. So if she likes you back and is willing to, you know, you guys can work from there. It's just a matter of patience. But I understand that if she's not ready for it, then it's better not to push it. But yeah. At least you get fun. Did you have fun that evening? Or were you demoralized by what happened? If I can, because I see the chat. Actually, silly of me, I can just move the chat box, move it up here or something, so I can read you guys perfectly fine. Exactly. Being quiet and respectful. I was demoralized at first, but I've been trying to get my mind off things. Yeah, I mean, those things tend to have a two-sided face to it, because you know, if it doesn't go well, it really brings you down a lot, especially if you were a bit certain and stuff. That's why I mostly do not, if I like someone, I usually show that to them. It's not like I do, you know, declare? No, that's not the word. Confess my feelings for that person. I just go ahead and instead, I don't know, it really depends on the person, I guess, but I don't usually do that if I am single. But right now I am personally not, so it's been quite a while, so my techniques might be a bit rusty in that department. Anyways, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, it's a gem. It allows you for a lot of replayability. It's basically an action RPG in which you play as a vampire, and it's the world it is set in is in the world of darkness setting, which allows you to pick up clan, allows you to, every single clan of vampires have different abilities. You're going to meet a lot of very interesting NPCs. The voice acting is marvelous in this game. The way you can play this game in many ways is fantastic. You can use your powers, you can use weapons, firearms. There's a lot of things to see and watch in this game. Clearly, one of the best games ever made, and I'm very sad that this game was not able to come out complete, as the developers had to cut short time. But still, with the unofficial patch, it's a really good game, and I think no one should be sleeping on this one, because it's a classic. Now, Bloodlines 2 is in the horizon, soon to come out, I think. Frankly, I don't know what to think about Bloodlines 2, because there has been a lot of bad policy about it, especially with some people in the development team going away and being removed by other people. So it's a bit, I would love for the game to be really good, but what it feels like, especially having in mind that the special edition comes with the manual for the tabletop RPG, it feels like this is just a promotion for the tabletop RPG and not specifically something good to come out. But anyways, we shall see about that when it comes. If it comes this year, of course, because it has been in development for quite a while. The next game we have on the tier list is Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition. So, okay, this is a tier list that is always based on my own preferences, and I have to say Dark Souls, it's another one that is going to be on the S tier. I played this game through this year, because I think it's one of the best games ever made. It defined the genre. Prepare your anus. Hello, paper. Welcome to the stream. And yes, it's Prepare Your Anus Dark Souls edition. What is there to be said about Dark Souls as well? Is a fantastic game that tests your patience. Might not be the best thing to sell this game from that point. So I would just speak of my own personal experiences of Dark Souls 1, which is not something I did back when I played it. Actually, both Dark Souls 1 and Bayonetta 1 are games that I bought together. The story about it was that I had about 50 euros that I was planning on using on a gift to gift someone. But apparently that someone decided, yeah, well, cut friendships with me and stuff. So I decided to use the money, and when I went to the store, I saw Dark Souls 1 for 30 bucks and Bayonetta Special Edition for 20. You played Dark Souls 2 and 3 earlier. The stream? No, not earlier in the stream. I should be playing those eventually, maybe this year. But I think, well, basically I started streaming this year. Last year, so to speak. And the first game I was streaming was actually Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. So 2 and 3 are still pending to be streamed eventually. But yes, I've played those on my own, if that is also the question. So Dark Souls in particular, I didn't know what to expect, because I didn't know much about the game. I think I saw a few images about Dark Souls in maybe a magazine or maybe a YouTube video. But it's so confusing to me because I do remember seeing Demon Souls cutscenes and gameplay. But when I searched for it, they said that it was a game for the PS3 back in the day, and I had an Xbox 360. So when Dark Souls came out, I thought, okay, this seems like a spiritual successor to that other game that came out not that long ago, which was Demon Souls. So why not? Let's grab it. Let's see what the fuss is all about. And both of these games, Dark Souls and Bayonetta, came at a time that I didn't know I needed games like this. And I deeply fell in love with Dark Souls. I fell in love with the atmosphere. At the beginning, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what, like everyone else, didn't know what to do, didn't know how to tackle the game. I just went along with it. And eventually I thought, oh my god, why is this game so hard? Because I was not used to the kind of gameplay that Dark Souls was giving us back in the day. So I do remember reaching like the iron boar. Like the one you see when they close the gates on you and you have to go around in the detour. So the first iron bull you see, basically. And that was the first enemy I tried to attack. And then I saw the damage I was doing to the big boy and was thinking, why does the boar has armor? Because he was constantly killing me, even though I tried to beat the boar many times. So the way I did it was to cheat the boar to get into the flames, the little bonfires that are around in the arena of the boar. And then he died. And that is when I realized, oh my god, the game is actually making me aware of my surroundings and use it to tackle this, to fight these enemies, at least in the first playthroughs. Also, something that I love about the game is people leaving you messages. The invasion thing also keeps you on your toes. I don't know. The journey through Dark Souls was really magical to me. And I replayed the shit out of Dark Souls 1 back in the day, in the Xbox era. People sending you hate mail for having or having an awful build or a try-hard build. Also, lots of memories in this game in general. I have to say that Dark Souls 1 probably is one of the best games that we've had in our generation. Indeed. So, moving on, Bayonetta 1. Bayonetta, what can I say about this game? It's an action-packed game that I got alongside Dark Souls. To be honest, I was one of the... As a teenager, I was like really a fanboy of Devil May Cry. So when I saw that what Bayonetta was all about, and it was about this woman that was getting in nude and stuff like that, I would be like, what the hell is this? Why are you doing this? Why is there a character like she? Why does a character like she exist? That was my initial reaction to this game. So, back when I got Dark Souls, I saw the Bayonetta was about 20 euros and think about, okay, what do I have to lose? It could be the worst case scenario, I don't like the game and just stop playing. I turned on the game, fucking loved it. My mind was completely changed. And probably all of that was because of the aesthetic the game has. Because I was not expecting Bayonetta to be... I thought the game was just going to be revolving around, you know, big lady, getting naked, lots of stuff. But no, it's far beyond that. And she getting in nude is the least of the worries and the least of the things that is going to happen throughout the game. You have a lot of references, you have a lot of weapons, you have a lot of abilities that seems to be interesting. The first time I played Bayonetta, and you get to the point where when you see John turning into animals to get away, and then you see Bayonetta doing the same, I was like, what the fuck? This game is awesome! I can turn into an animal and run around faster. I have a lot of mobility now. I have lots of weapons. I don't know. Bayonetta 1 was just... It's a game that I instantly love. And I really thought I was not going to enjoy it. And this game for me was an eye-opener in the fact that you never have to judge a game by how it looks or how it's presented to you. You have to try it for yourself to finally understand or try to get what the appeal is on the game and why the game might be or might not be successful. And Bayonetta, I have to thank Bayonetta for that. Also, even though not, she is one of the strongest female characters that we have in the media. Doesn't matter about her personality, and she has a lot of good things going for her. So I have to apologize to her for misjudging based on appearances. Bayonetta 1, though, even though it's a great game, I would recommend to everyone, I would still put it on an A, in my opinion. Why is it not an S? Because I think there are games that have transcended in my life a lot more to be considering it an S. But I have to say that I really, really enjoy Bayonetta as a game. I replay it a lot, and I think it's one of the best action RPGs that we'd have with Devil May Cry style combat and stuff like that. Hack and slashing through enemies. It has a lot going for it. So for me, I think Bayonetta is a solid high tier A in this regard. Kato. Kato is a game that I didn't know anything about. So I got it on a Humble Bundle, I think, and decided to go around and play with it now that I had the chance. It's an indie game in which you use pieces of paper to create a map. And if you join those pieces to make puzzles, you can create and get to new areas. So the point of the game is basically creating a little map with the pieces so you can move to the place you need to be. Sometimes you need to create a certain shape so that the correct map plays and you can get to those areas. It was quite great. It was a short ride, but I would say it was a really good short ride. I actually had a lot of fun playing the game. For the tier list, in this case, Car 2 is going to be, I would say, the middle ground. I would say it's a B. It has a lot going for it, especially in the puzzle mechanics department, which I think it's fantastic, to say the least. But I think it has a lot of potential that I was not able to see in the game. So if eventually they release another Car 2 or something similar to that game, I think they can explore many, many more new ideas that would make this a lot more interesting and engaging, even though the game itself provides a really soft and enjoyable story. Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth. So this is a Metroidvania style game that is basically based on the Record of Lodoss War, which is a series of books, and I think it has a series. I don't know much about the lore and the world building this saga has, to be honest. But I have to say that the game was really enjoyable. The only downside I see to this game is that definitely you need to have a previous knowledge of the relationship between the characters and how they have developed through the series. Because Deedlit, the elf you play as, has already a developed personality that, even though they try to explain it to you and to see where she stands, it's a bit hard to follow what is going on if you don't know anything about the story of the Lodoss War. So, still judging it as a standalone game, I would probably say that Deedlit and the Wonder Labyrinth was also a B. The gameplay was really nice. Wish the game was a bit longer, because the game was... I think I played the game and completed it in like 2 sessions in the stream. So I would like to see another game like this, but a bit longer maybe. Now that I think about it, I didn't play that many Metroidvanias in this year. And I do have a few of those that I could potentially play around with, like Blasphemous. Also, Hollow Knight might be a game that we play this year. Could be interesting. Resident Evil 0. This is the first time I played Resident Evil 0 as a game itself. How did I find the game? The game was actually really interesting. The way you play with 2 characters it's a nice change to the normal Resident Evil formula. I do like games that are that have the survival horror aesthetic of Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. You know, having tank controls and moving around in an area, explore, getting items, and unlock new areas. That is something that is really, really appealing to me. Resident Evil 0, though, has a lot of drawbacks that I personally don't like. For example, it's just my opinion, okay? Was it a bad game? No, it was just another entry in the Resident Evil saga, which I enjoyed for what it is. But I think it's unfortunate, and I do like the fact that, for example, Rebecca is the only one that can do that can do medicine stuff, and Billy is the one that has strength and whatever. So you have to use both characters to do certain things, you know. But the thing is about that specifically is that it feels like Rebecca is more of a side character in this, because she is unable to do many things and has to rely a lot on Billy, which in itself is not a bad thing, but it's something that was not really well exploited in this. Something that, you know, I don't know, Rebecca could have been a better support character in the abilities that she would have, not just being able to mix herbs, because she also has less defense and gets hurt more easily. So most of the time you're going to be playing as Billy because he is tankier, he's going to take a lot more damage, and he is the one that you use for doing hard labor or maybe move around a library, because Rebecca is unable to do it. Which is a shame though, because I think Resident Evil 0 could have been a better game if both characters have had a bit more presence in the entirety of the game. Story-wise, I would say is a nice prelude to Resident Evil. It's a bit mixed and confusing sometimes, but not a bad game nonetheless. I would say Resident Evil 0 is a B in this case. I would replay it. I wouldn't mind making a full Resident Evil series playthrough 1 to 0 to whatever, I don't know, 6, 7. No, actually 8. We have Village right now, so making a full entire Resident Evil series would be great one day. But it's a shame that the game doesn't realize its full potential with the mechanics it has. But nonetheless, it was a really enjoyable game. Resident Evil 5, so this is going to be really personal in my opinion. Every single game is personal, but you know, Resident Evil 5 has the advantage that I played this game a lot with my brother in co-op play. Actually, while playing this game on stream, I had company of other people that were playing the game because I thought this game was dead. But still, there's people that is actively playing Resident Evil 5, and you would get someone to play with you sometimes. You know, getting connected with someone else, waiting for you to restart the level and get inside. So actually, this was like a co-op multiplayer stream, because I had a lot of people coming in during my playthrough. Resident Evil 5 is a game that breaks the how to say it. It takes what Resident Evil 4 was and takes it to a higher point. It's the game where it's less horror and more action. And the series was taking that route a lot stronger now. What is there to say? I have been in Resident Evil 5 like 10 times. Resident Evil 5 is a great game. I would consider Resident Evil 5 is an A, because I've played this game co-op a lot of times, and the co-op in this game is just amazing. Playing with another friend, it's an entirely different experience than playing by yourself, just to get to know the story. I like both Sheva and Chris in this games are amazing. I'm really terribly sorry that we have not seen Sheva that many times in the future. But I would like to see her more often in the Resident Evil series, because Resident Evil 5 was really good to play co-op with people. I would argue the same about Resident Evil 6, but since I've not played it this year, I will not try to make that many comments about it. Because people talk shit about Resident Evil 6, Which, okay, I get it. The story is... Let's leave it at that. The story just is. But if you guys have played Resident Evil 6 with someone else and just enjoyed how it plays in the gameplay, Resident Evil 6 is amazing. I think I've replayed Resident Evil 6 more times than I've played Resident Evil 4. Just because I do enjoy the co-op in Resident Evil 6 a lot. There is a lot of moments that have been perfected in Resident Evil 6 that you can enjoy with other players. It's a bit bullshit. Okay, I get it. It's more action-y. But the co-op itself is super fun to play with. But we're not talking about Resident Evil 6. We're talking about Resident Evil 5. And the story, I would say, I mean, you punch a fucking boulder into a volcano. What is there to say about Resident Evil 5? The gameplay has a lot of impact too. When you do the melee attacks in this game, you can feel the heaviness in the attacks, and the sensation is really, really good. Thief remake, because I'm going to get crucified for this, but I have not played the original trilogy of Thief. Thief 4 was actually the first Thief game I've played, and that is probably going to get me crucified. Eventually I will try to play the other Thieves games. But this one in particular, I have to say that for the plot itself, the plot is... It's serviceable. It has not a lot going for it. But the gameplay and the sneaking around, getting items, maybe using your hands to get on the portraits and take the buttons and stuff. I would say that was an interesting experience that I did enjoy in Thief. I think some of the stages are really fun to play with, especially the asylum and the library. I think there was a library down in some caves that you find using a certain item. And those levels, I would have to say that I had fun with those. But nonetheless, it's not the greatest game of the entire series. And the story itself, it's quite confusing. So, for just 1 or 2 playthroughs, I would say the Thief goes in the C tier in this case. Especially because Thief has a lot going to it. Not a lot going for it, but I still did enjoy it enough not to consider it a trash game. You know, because it's not trash. If you get this game for like $10 or something like that, I think your money is well spent, because there's a lot of content to do and a lot of things to get. And if you have a collector's kind of personality, you could try and get every single collectible and piece of gold in this game, and they show it to you back at your base, so it's always something that you can go and watch. Outer Wilds. Oh my god. What? Outer Wilds. Yeah. What should we do with Outer Wilds? Any suggestions about Outer Wilds? Should it go in S tier, A tier? My personal opinion, I would say Outer Wilds goes to an A tier. Outer Wilds. This game is probably one of the greatest games of our generation. A tier. Hello, Aki. Welcome to the stream. You would say it's an A tier, not an S. Interesting. I think Outer Wilds is one of the greatest games of our generation, to be honest. Why do I say this? Because the game has a lot of love poured into it. It's a game that doesn't insult your intelligence as a player. It's a game that is about discovery. And I think more games will need to learn about Outer Wilds a lot more. I don't know if the developers of these games, of this game in particular, were, you know, already in the world of gaming developing. But I have to say that Outer Wilds is one of the greatest masterpieces in gaming times. And I've played a lot of games. And this is high praise coming from me, because I don't usually use those big words when it comes to a game. But I have to admit that Outer Wilds is an experience that I didn't know I was going to enjoy, because I actually didn't know anything about Outer Wilds. Goated. I didn't know anything about this game whatsoever. I didn't know what the game was about. I only knew that you travel from planet to planet. And I think it's a game you have to experience by yourself and not let anyone spoil you anything. So, even though I would like to talk about Outer Wilds a lot, I think for the tier list, we are just going to leave it there and say that yes, it's a great game. And it's a game that you guys should play at least once in your life. Because it's not a game that has a lot of replayability unless you put a challenge to yourself or something. But it really speaks to the soul. And it's a game that it's a love letter to space travel and space exploration. So go get yourself Outer Wilds, especially with the DLC. Because the DLC is also an amazing piece of content. So you guys, I know you guys are going to enjoy it. I think most of you guys that have decided to stay on the stream, most of you have played Outer Wilds. And I think we met thanks to that game. So yeah. I think there's nothing, I have nothing to say to you guys that I have not said before. My favorite games of all time. I wouldn't say it's my favorite games of all times, but it's definitely on the top of games to play once in your life. The Witness. Oh my god. I'm really afraid to use The Witness and put it on the tier list. What can I say about The Witness? The Witness is a game. And I think I once read about a title of a video that is on YouTube that I think summarizes well the Witness experience. Which was, The Witness is a great game that you should not play. And I'm not saying this as a bad thing, because The Witness is a lot of things at the same time. It's, in the most basic principle, it's just a puzzle game. But it's also a puzzle game that makes you interact with the environment. It translates into a lot of interesting mechanics. It takes you to very weird places that are going to take quite a while to get out of. But I'd still say that it's a really beautiful game. Especially the art design is very beautiful, very colorful. And some of the puzzles you might not expect with this game. So The Witness, in my opinion, it has to go on the A tier. Because for all the headaches I got from this game, I still think it's a well worth game to get yourself. Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Actually, this would be kinda like this. Like this. Because I did not play the third game. I just played the first and the second game. So, Spyro Reignited Trilogy. It's a platform game. It comes from a classic. And it's a real interesting classic. I would say the remake was really well made. I would say the remake was really enjoyable. The graphics are amazing. The platforming has held up really well throughout the years. And the game feels very, very solid. So if you've enjoyed Spyro back in the PS1 era, I think you're going to enjoy perfectly well the Reignited Trilogy. At least the first and second game, I completed it to 100%. And I would say it's a great game. But for me, in my opinion, I've played better platforming games. And I would say that Spyro goes into the solid B tier. And it's going to stay there for me this year. Zelda Ocarina of Time. The classic N64 game, just ported to be played on the PC this time. Thanks to the emulator of Ship of Arkan, I think it was. What to say about Zelda Ocarina of Time? It's a great game. It's a classic. There's not much to be said about the game, to be honest. And it's one of the solid games that you can play on the N64. Definitely a title to contend for a grade, for being one of the pinnacles of gaming history that we've had, turning to 3D games. Because Ocarina of Time brought to the table a lot of things, like the C targeting, like the use of weapons, the use of items that you would get. You can turn into a child, you can turn into an adult, and the dungeons you'll be playing with both of those characters are going to be entirely different, because the child cannot use some of the items the adult has, and vice versa. There's not much to say because this is not a review about Zelda Ocarina of Time. You guys should play it because it's history of video games, and it's something that I think it wouldn't reach you a lot if you play Zelda Ocarina of Time. It's going to go on the A tier. Why am I getting such a classic on the A tier? Because even if I do enjoy Zelda as a game, as an IP, I think there are multiple Zelda games that are a bit better than Ocarina of Time. By no means I say that Ocarina of Time is a bad game or not the perfect Zelda. But I have to say that Link to the Past has a special spot in my heart. And I think some of the newer Zeldas have also more interesting mechanics. But those will be regarded eventually if I play around with those. Blue Fire. Blue Fire also falls into the same spectrum as Zelda Ocarina of Time. 3D game, the use of items and mobility around. You can run through walls, you can double jump. You have a few special powers with the sword. It's quite indie. It's quite platformy. It's like a mix of Zelda combined with A Hat in Time. more or less. The gameplay is quite solid. The character is responsive. You can move around a lot. You can unlock a few things. Sadly, the things you unlock are not plenty. When I was playing this game, I thought that I was going to get items just like in, you know, the Zelda game. That you would get a hammer, you would get a hookshot, you would get other items that would allow you to run around the stage and do stuff. Frankly, it's not that. You get a lot of jumping puzzles, you get a lot of interesting challenges. But unfortunately, I was expecting more from this game that it really had, which is, in my opinion, it's my own fault. I shouldn't judge the game for that. But I think there is a lot of missed potential in this game, and if I had to rank it, I would have to say that Blue Fire is a B tier game. Really good, and I enjoyed it, but I think it has a lot of potential that was not realized through the entirety of the game, which is also a big shame. Really big shame. Hades. Action-packed RPG developed by Supergiant Games. Hades 2 has been announced in this Game of the Year awards. Hades is full-pack action, roguelike game with a lot of story, which is something that I really enjoy about this game, is that there is a lot of heart put into everything this game has. The music, the voice acting, the environments, the art, the aesthetic, the gameplay. Everything about this game is just perfect. It's a solid roguelike with story, which frankly for some people might be bullshit. It's just a roguelike, so why do you need the story? But it's something that defines Hades as a game a lot from other roguelikes, because at least you have a story, you have a goal, you have purpose in what you are doing. Yeah, you might enjoy the gameplay, or the gameplay might be repetitive, but at least you're doing different things then, and at least you're doing it with a purpose, not just a fun just for fun, which might be good in itself. But I think this defines Hades as a game, and especially Supergiant Games as a company dedicated to the creation of games. So I think Hades goes this year into the solid S. S tier game. Fantastic game that you should get. It's also sometimes very low on price. So please, if you're able, get yourself Hades. If you're able and if you enjoy it, of course. Inscription. This is a game I didn't know anything about, and was gifted to me by Day, who recommended it to me a lot. So one of those games that I entered to not knowing anything about. So this year has been one of playing a lot of games that that I have not played before. So I have a few games now that I have to check off the list this year. Inscription. I was not ready for what Inscription was at the end, because there is a lot to analyze about this game and how it shifts from one game to the next, and the things you do based on the basic construction the game has, because the card game is just the same, but it depends on where you are in the story. Some of the things might change, new rules get implemented, and you still have that escape room feeling, at least in the first part of the game. So that's The ambience, the atmosphere is really great, especially especially with the camera, and then seeing the cards you create being played against or in your own deck. But it has a lot of explorative moments, and for that, Inscription, for the plot, the ambience, and what it does, and how it plays with your mind as well, I would say Inscription is a solid A, in my opinion. Live Alive. Live Alive is an RPG that is a remake from the self-named game back in the SNES era. What is there to say about this game is that it's a really great RPG. The music is fantastic. It plays a lot differently. My apologies. It plays a lot differently from other RPGs of that same era. The only downside is that it also carries the same problems I would say it had back in the SNES. It's a bit grindy. It's a bit combat heavy game. Doesn't allow you to skip any of the combat. It doesn't have any modern functions to, you know, avoid combat, to save time and stuff like that. So I personally, for me personally, that is not specifically bad or wrong about a game, but I would understand that in order to save time, you would like to get a few commodities or a few life changes, quality of life changes in a game that is a remake from an old one. Still, I think the game is varied enough in the different eras to allow for you to have a single playthrough full of fun and enjoy Live Alive for what it is. Live Alive, though, has to go on the B tier for me, because there's a lot of things that I think it could have been better, especially having in mind it's a remake, and I think many more new things could have been implemented to add content to this game, because just the graphic improvement, the sound improvement and stuff, I think it was a lot of effort, but it could have been a bit better in that regard. Bloodborne. First time I played Bloodborne this year. This is the first time I get the PS4 to finally play Bloodborne. And I have to say that I really, really, really enjoyed Bloodborne for what it is. Not just the aesthetic, but the gameplay itself was a lot more simplified, which I think is a really good thing to keep people coming into the game, coming into the Soul series and stuff. So, if someone asked me, what would you consider to be a great game to start playing in the Soul series, I would probably say Bloodborne. And I have not the necessary knowledge to say if Elden Ring would be a great candidate for a first Dark Souls, for a first Souls game in general. So I would say Bloodborne is a great start in the series. And maybe Dark Souls 1 because it's the original one. But if you would like to get a more simplified version, someone getting new into trying to learn the schematic of controls, the rolls, the dodging, the timing of things, I would say Bloodborne, it's a great game to start in the Soulborne series. Especially because it has a lot more simplified things. And it's really odd and hard to make a build that is not going to be viable eventually, you know? Unless you mess up because you don't know the stats, you don't know what they do, so you put points in random stats. I get that. It happens. But still, I would recommend Bloodborne for someone that is trying the game for the first time. Maybe without the labyrinth, but still, the game itself provides a lot of challenges without being excessively, annoyingly hard sometimes. So yeah, Bloodborne for me, S tier. DLC is amazing as well. It adds a lot of content, a lot of weapons that you can use. So it's really great in that department. Also, I believe that the screen is turning out to be really bright and white. So might as well. Can we get all this into black? What the hell? Never mind. What was the... How was I able to get all this? So it doesn't get cramped, the screen. So, Dagon. This is the game that I played. Game. I think it's high praise calling it a game. The game I played back in the Halloween special. Dagon is not a game. Frankly, it's not. You may call it as a visual novel, you may call it as an interactive movie, but in itself, it's not a game. It's just a reading text of one of the short versions of short stories of H.P. Lovecraft. But Dagon itself, I would not consider it to be a game. Therefore, I don't think I should be ranking Dagon in its entirety. The game was really short, mainly because it's just various short stories that H.P. Lovecraft wrote, with a few hints, you know, fun facts about the development of the story and different things. But Dagon, no, it's not a game, and I would not recommend it. You can easily obtain Dagon because there's a lot of bundles this game gets put into. But I would frankly not rate this as one of the greatest games. Also, for the Halloween special, I played Amnesia, but I did not complete the game, so I think reviewing it would be not that appropriate. So if I had to review Dagon, it's going into the D. But it's just because it's not a real game, you know? It's not a game that you're probably going to be enjoying unless you like reading a lot with a bit more interactions. And the final game of the tier list today, of the games I played throughout 2022, is Bayonetta 3. Okay. Did I to make it brief, did I like Bayonetta 3? Yes. Yes, I did. I did enjoy Bayonetta 3. Do I consider Bayonetta 3 to be part of the canon in the Bayonetta lore? No. No, frankly, no. Because the game felt to me like a fan fiction. Like I was presented with fan fiction throughout the entirety of the game. Did I enjoy the gameplay? Yes, the gameplay is very solid. I did enjoy the new characters. I'd enjoy the interactions that the games has with the characters have with one another. Viola, even though I didn't like her gameplay, I did enjoy her inclusion in the story and what she represented. But like I said, I did enjoy Bayonetta 3 as a fan fiction project. I especially did not enjoy it as a self, as a part of the canon of the Bayonetta lore, basically. And I have to say that I really, really enjoy Bayonetta as it is. But I have to say that this is going to be one of those games I would like to rate A, but I think it's going to be indecisively between A and B tier. Because if I would like to have Bayonetta as a standalone game and as fan fiction not related to the canon of the story, yes, I would consider this to be an A game, a really high A game. But I have to say that Bayonetta, if it goes inside the canon, and for all it represents to me as a Bayonetta fan, I have to say it's a B. So it goes sadly in between those two ranks, and I cannot deeply decide because I have very indecisive thoughts about the game itself. And I'm not going to be spoiling much about the story because I have a friend of mine that is about to play the game. And if he is seeing the tier list, I don't want to spoil anything about it. But let me just say this. If Bayonetta was fan fiction, it would be a solid A. Since Bayonetta is not fan fiction, is part of the canon, is a B tier. Still, the gameplay is really fun and really solid. And I had a lot of fun using the Bayonetta movements around how she moves, how she transforms the demons, the combos, the weapons, etc. So I would say, yeah, this is the complete list, though, of the games that we've played throughout the entirety of the year. Quite a solid list, I would say, if I can say so myself. I would definitely like to see more games this year and see if we can actually get it together, get to play many great games alongside this year. It's going to be great. I just know it. 2023 is going to be a much more high impact, full of games. Final Fantasy 16 is coming out this year, and I'm ready to play it. And many other games that we have in the pending list that I would like to try and would like to get my hands on. So yeah, frankly, this is my own personal opinion on the 2022 games that I played in the stream. And hopefully, let's see if 2023 brings out many more games that we enjoy together in the company of one another. I'm willing to